Sit up straight and tall. Gay said that she hates Zoom. Well, think of what it would be like if we didn't have Zoom in this day and age. We would all just be not able to get together at all. And I am personally very thankful for the community that we have as a result of Zoom and this particular global pandemic. So even though it's not the best thing in the world, it certainly makes some really good things possible. So go ahead and turn your thighs from the inside out with your hands. Turn your calves up toward the ceiling and turn your feet up toward the ceiling as well. And press the tops of the feet down into the floor and energetically lift your ankles up. In those movement of the feet, you should feel some firmness come into the hips and lengthen up through the side ribs and roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades closer together on your back, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit. So you should feel the chest lift, but it's really like an ice cream cone is the best way that I can think of it, that there's the base of both shoulder blades and then there's like a cylinder of energy that moves up to the chest, but also out to the edges of the collarbones. Then keeping your chest well lifted and broad like that, close your eyes and fold your palms together to your heart. And just take stock of where you are today on this particular Saturday morning in August. As you inhale, make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, draw the prana, or the energy of the breath, outward toward your side ribs and armpits. Inhale, make yourself tall. Keep that height. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. Use that breath to create a sense of inner spaciousness. Like it's a room that you want to go into. Into, let's say, a Zoom room that's within you. That's the inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Patanjali tells us that one of the ways that we can go into that inner landscape is by watching the exhalation. So keeping your chest well lifted and broad on that inhalation, maintain that lift and that broadness, but use the exhalation to turn your mind from the outer world toward the inner world, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Use your exhalations to keep your awareness there, or at least take your awareness there. And as you continue to watch each exhalation, hopefully you become a little bit more firmly tethered to that still space within. And then from that still place within, let's chant 3 Ums together. Follow that sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound with your mind. And from that space, inhale once more. Keep your chest well lifted and broad. Bring your chin down to your chest and your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And then raise your head and open your eyes. I guess I was particularly struck by Carly and Val being here this morning because today is my mom's 82nd birthday. She's not alive anymore. She died about 2.5 years ago, but she is the person who introduced me to yoga. So motherhood and all of its great gifts and joys are very much on my mind. So, all right, so sit up straight and tall. And then keeping that length in the sides of the torso as much as you can, walk your hand over to the side. And as you walk your hand over to the side, turn your torso toward the screen. Then reach your arm up like you're doing Parseval. And you'll feel a length come all the way through the side of the body. I think we did this last week, but it's worth doing again. So I've learned a different arm entry or arm approach. So this, instead of just stretching your arm up, bring your thumb right to that outside edge of the collarbone, that edge of the ice cream cone. Tuck your elbow in, and then use your thumb a little bit first to lift the chest even more. Turn your torso more toward the center, toward the camera, and then keep your elbow in close as you straighten your arm up and over. And when I use that action of the arm, I can feel that extension really coming all the way from the base of my pelvic bone, as opposed to when I just reach over, it's like I feel it kind of just from the rib cage and the arm area. But when I keep the elbow in, use the thumb to lift a little bit more, and then keep the elbow in close and reach over, there's a whole integrated action on the whole side of my body. It feels really, really good. Okay. Then keep that extension in the side of the body as you wiggle yourself back up and bring your hand down and just feel the difference on the right, well, it's my left, but it'll be your right side of the body if you're mirroring me, from the side that you did and the side that you didn't do. Just like that sense of inner spaciousness at the beginning of class that we cultivated with the inhalation and the exhalation, there's more inner and external spaciousness on that side of the body. And then that should make you want to do the other side with even more enthusiasm. All right, so reach your hand over and off to the side. Okay. And then lengthen through the bottom side of your body too, but then turn your torso toward me. Press through the thumb and the first finger and rotate that shoulder arm back as well. And then let's just run the experiment again. Stretch your arm up just like you would in Badaknasana. Okay. In the normal way, just turning the palm and reaching over. Okay. And it's not that it doesn't do anything. Okay. But then feel the difference when you actually get the elbow in close, hook the thumb so you get some more lift in that shoulder blade or the collarbone area. And even that, just that little movement with the thumb, I feel more engagement coming already from that lower part of my torso. So when I get the top part more open, the lower part sort of responds. Then keeping your elbow in close to the side of the body, stretch your arm all the way up and really reach. And now when I use that particular approach, again, I'm feeling that extension and the stretch actually touching that very base part of the pelvis on the side of my body. I don't know if y'all feel that also a little bit differently. All right, then keep the sides of the torso as long as you can as you bring your hand all the way up, and then come back to Swastika. All right, then stretch your legs all the way out into Dandasana. Oops, I know you can't quite see my feet. All right, here's my foot, it's just down on the floor. All right, and then keep the big toes together and spread your other toes wide apart. And then from the little toe side of the foot, draw all the way up into the outer hips. So you feel that firmness come into the outer hips. Feel a lift come into the chest. Roll those shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit so you really feel your chest get well lifted and broad. And be in a really nice Dandasana here. And Dandasana means a staff, okay? Like something that you would use, to help yourself walk. So apparently one of the other meanings of the word, it's like a staff can also be like a stick of authority, like a king would use in ancient times. Okay. So think of that, or it's maybe a symbol of power. Okay. Usually people think of that center line of the body, the staff, right, as the spine. Okay. But you can also think of it in terms of a sense of power. Something that gives you a greater sense of autonomy, right? And that's really, in some ways, what we're building up in yoga is our ability to be more firmly with our own sense of authority, our own sense of power. So we're not fluctuated so much by the external changes of circumstance in our world. Okay, so bring your legs back into Swastikasana and the other way. Again, Swastikasana means a cross of the legs. Those of you who haven't been coming to this class regularly, Carolyn very nicely said, I don't really understand what all those Sanskrit words are. So I've been making more of an effort, particularly in this class, to explain what the Sanskrit words actually mean. And then we'll all build up a kind of working vocabulary of the poses that we actually do. And so the swastika is a cross. Okay? Actually, you know, it is unfortunately associated with a kind of negative, right, authority of Nazism. But it's actually a very ancient symbol, like you see it on a lot of like pottery, for instance, in the Greek world, and also in art of the Indian subcontinent as well. And it too is a kind of symbol of a kind of authority. Okay. But press your feet down into the floor and energetically lift your ankles up again. And you'll feel that firmness come into the outer hips when you do that. Lengthen up through the sides of the torso again. All right, then stretch your arms out, interlace your fingers, and turn your palms toward me. Sometimes these Sanskrit words have fun meanings like the Dandasana and the staff. Other times the Sanskrit words really just refer to what you're supposed to do with your body, okay? So when we bind the fingers like this, okay, so that's a bada or a bind, right? And the fingers are just anguliyas, okay? So right now we're just in Bada Anguliasana, you might say. But when we add the arms and go up toward the ceiling with the hands, then that's up, or Urdhva, right? Okay, so now you're in Urdhva Anguliasana. So press the tops of the feet down into the floor, energetically lift your ankles up and extend all the way up through those wrist bones. So you feel the sides of the torso get long again. All right, then lean over to the side and turn your torso toward the front of the room. And then from that lower part of the pelvic bone that we were working on in this first side stretch, really extend through the whole side of your torso. Extend through the wrist bones and feel yourself grow taller. Come back to the center and then do the same thing on the other side. Before you even go, turn your torso a little bit toward the screen. And from that lower part of that pelvic bone, lift and lengthen up from the rib cage, through the arm, through the wrist bone, all the way up. Make yourself tall. Then come all the way back to the center. I feel tons taller. And then bring your hands all the way down. Take a look at your fingers and switch the grip of your fingers so that the other interlaces other fingers on top, okay? Then turn your palms out again. Press the feet down and lift the ankles up. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bones. A little bit, pull your pinkies back toward you so you get a little bit more engagement in the outer shoulders. And then reach your arms all the way up again into Urdhva, up, Bada, bound, Anguliasana. Upward bound finger pose in Swastikasana. All right, now connect the actions of the legs. Press the feet down and lift the ankles up with that movement from the elbow through the wrist bone. Reach up. Make yourself tall. All right, then let's add the little side twist again. So just a little bit, turn your torso toward the screen and then reach over. And as you reach over, don't sink. Actually use that, let's say, movement to the side to get even more length in the side of the torso. Like you were doing an odd version of Badaknasana. Then come all the way back to the center. Do the same thing on the other side. Turn the torso a little bit before you even go. Reach and extend from that lower pelvic bone through the wrist, through the armpit, through the wrist, and make yourself tall. Come all the way back to the center. And then keep all of that height, keep all of that openness in the chest as you come back and just be in Swastikasana and the pose of the cross. So I'm actually feeling a huge amount more energy moving through the center of my body just from having done those basic opening poses. And I like to take the time and notice those little effects because it really gives me a very actually inspiring sense of how much power there is in a yoga practice. Just by sitting for, we've been at this a little less than about 15 minutes, my space, but my interior space feels radically transformed. I'm in a different space of being, a different space of consciousness than when I walked into the room and was fiddling with all of the Zoom stuff. All right, back to Dandasana, staff pose. All right, let's work on some more of the names of the seated poses again. So take your right hand on the inside of the right knee and move the knee out to the side and stay right on the little toe side of your foot. And then bring the other leg in. I'm on a couple blankets. You can be on the floor, you can be on blankets. I actually, also this morning, I'm feeling a little bit of tightness in the groin, and you can see that my knees right now are kind of higher than my pelvic bone. So I'm actually going to take the time and say, you need a little bit more height this morning. So now I'm sitting up on 3 blankets. And when I bring the leg into Badaknasana, you can see that my knees have gone down a little bit, right? And now at least they're level with the pelvic bones. And that's good enough. And I can also, from just taking that 1 blanket, I can actually feel more width across my pelvic bones as well. Okay. All right. Badaknasana. It's the same word, like we bound the fingers. Okay. And the Bada here, though, refers to the lower leg binding the upper leg in place. So Kona is an angle. Okay. Sometimes people think I'm saying ankle when I say that, but I'm saying angle, okay? And the angle refers to the angle of the leg, okay? I wonder if the word ice cream cone actually comes from Kona. I wonder if it's the same linguistic root. Interesting. Okay, probably so, actually. So go ahead and, but what I was gonna say is this pose has several different foot positions, okay? Or you can change what the feet are doing, okay? So one thing that you can do with the feet when you're in Badaknasana is really press the heels together and press the balls of the feet together. And do that so much that you actually feel more length coming into the inner groin, and then also some firmness coming into the outer hips. This is a hard pose for a lot of people to sit in, so go ahead and use your fingers back behind you so you can get that lift in the sides of the torso. Now really keep pushing the ball of the feet against each other and the heels against each other. So it's not a casual action. You're really pushing, like you're standing each foot against the other one so that you can feel the outer hips get a little bit firmer, all right? Okay, now you can also do this pose with the Swastikasana foot position. Okay, so go ahead and lean a little bit forward. Put your thumbs on the balls of your feet and your fingers underneath your feet and try and open the feet toward the ceiling. So it's like the foot position of Swastikasana in a lot of ways. And when you lean a little bit forward and really do this with your hands, you should feel more width coming into the groin. Right, keep that additional width, sit back up straight, and in this foot position, press the whole little toe side of the foot in toward each other, but you're really trying to open the tops of the feet up toward the floor. All right, then place the hands on the outside of the knees, pull the legs together, and stretch your legs out into Dandasana again. Then from Dandasana, or staff pose, bring your legs out wide. And this one I don't personally need as much height, but some people do. From this particular angle, my legs look incredibly long. Okay, so Kona means the same angle, right? And my legs are at the same angle, and Upavishta just means wide apart. Okay. The actions of the legs are really the same. Okay? Spread across your toes. From the little toe side of the foot, draw all the way up into the outer hips, so your outer hips become firmer. Okay? That musculature around the outer hip is what I'm talking about. Then lengthen up through the side ribs and roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades closer together on the back, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit so you can really feel your chest get nice and lifted. So the width of the leg, I would say acts as like an encouragement for the upper body to also get broad. So just keep extending through your legs, but also you'll feel that same extension coming into the collarbones. Then go ahead and bring your legs back into Dandasana. And then I'm going to stand up. I have to change the little computer thing now. Close your eyes if it's going to make you dizzy. Okay, can you see my whole body now? Yes, you can, because I can see the profile on the thing. All right, so those basic seated positions are really nice to do. I actually really increasingly like starting practice that way because it gives me a little bit more opening in the hips to work with from the very beginning. But basically each seated pose has a corresponding standing pose. And if you think about it, also a corresponding inverted pose. But I'm tucking my shirt in and stand, everyone stand in Tadasana. Okay, so Tadasana means mountain pose. I was talking more about this at the beginning of the pandemic, but you know, another reason that it's kind of interesting just to learn the Sanskrit words or know the name of the pose is that it, you know, connects us with things that are inspiring, like a mountain. Okay? So as you're standing in mountain pose, on the one hand, you could do all of your basic actions, right? You could spread your toes, and you should be spreading your toes, moving the buttocks down toward the heels, lifting up through the inner thighs, lengthening through the side ribs, and all of that, you know, all of those are very technical things. But once you've kind of run that checklist in your mind or followed the instructions of your teacher on Zoom, let go of that and actually just think about a mountain. Okay? And let the experience of being in the pose be like the experience of looking at a really beautiful mountain. So you have that sense of beauty inside of you. And when you switch to that kind of thinking or that kind of experiencing, there's a different quality that comes into the pose. And one of the many beautiful things about yoga is that it touches different parts of our experience. I mean, part of me really loves every single little detail about Iyengar yoga and knowing all the stuff about the poses, but that's not the entirety of my being. There's also this other part of me, right, that loves the experience of nature and seeing the beauty of the natural world. And yoga can enhance all of those aspects of our being. So too, the pose is called a Vrikshasana, or tree pose. Right? I have a lovely image of the trees, or not even an image, there are lovely trees just over to the right of me over here. So it's very easy to think about the beauty and the majesty of a tree as we go into tree pose. Right? Oh, I forgot to say, but Tadasana is really like Dandasana, right? Okay, so now turn your leg out for Vrikshasana, lift your leg up, and place your foot as high as you can on your thigh. If you need the wall for balance, go ahead and use it. Now, just like we did in Badaknasana, this leg is basically in Badaknasana, push the heel and the ball of the foot into the thigh, and also push the thigh into the foot. And use your hand and lengthen from the inner groin through the inner knee. You can also externally rotate with your hand. And then stretch your arms up into Urdhva Hastasana. Urdhva again means up, and hastas are hands. Move the buttocks down toward that heel and lengthen up through your side ribs. Keep on lengthening up all the way through your ring fingers and all the way through your thumbs. And then see if you can join your palms together into Urdhva Namaskarasana. Urdhva means up, Namaskarasana. This is just what does that mean? I guess like position of prayer. So you got one here, you got one up there. All right, so really lift up and make yourself a taller tree. And then bring your palms down and bring your foot down and come back into Tadasana. And just observe a little bit. I can feel a little different sensation of opening in the side of my body that did the Vrikshasana already. Get a little bit more opening in the groin, a little bit more lift in the chest. All right, let's do the second side. And so turn your leg out, lift your leg up, get your ankle, and place your heel as high on your thigh as you can. Push your foot and your thigh into each other. And again, that action, just like it does in Badaknasana, really firms the outer hips. And then with your outer hips firm, lengthen up through the side ribs. Then join your palms. This is actually a different way of getting the Urdhva Namaskarasana. You see how I've got my arms bent? And I'll turn around so you can see my fingers are pointing backward toward you. Right? And so really extend back through the arms, like really almost like you're trying to get your arm behind your ear, which you are. And then from there, go ahead and reach your hands up into Urdhva Hastasana and see if that works a little bit better. It does for me. And just lifting the arms up. Okay. So you can really reach back through those ring fingers, turn the triceps from the outside in, keep reaching back, and then go into Urdhva Hastasana. Good. And then release and come down. And then bring yourself back into Tadasana, mountain pose. All right. Pose we don't work on usually. If you have a chair, okay, go ahead and get a chair, but it's related to Vrikshasana. It doesn't have to be a yoga chair. It can just be anything that you can sit on. Okay? It could be a footstool. It could even be a bolster if you don't have a chair. Okay. I'm just turning this a little bit lower so you can see my feet. Okay, so there's a very fancy seated pose that we're going to work on now that's called Mula Bandhasana. In yoga, particularly in pranayama, but also in yoga, I guess you could say philosophy, there are bandhas, are binds, okay? Or locks is another word for it. And the mula is the root lock. The one you might be most familiar with is the Jalandhara Bandha, which you do in like shoulder stand, which is up here. There's also a Uddiyana Bandha in your abdominal region where your abdomen goes in and up a little bit. Okay? And those are locks or seals that seal the energy into the body, okay? The prana. Okay? And so this particular one we're about to learn is named after the lowest lock, which is called the Mula Bandha. Right? Okay, so we're going to try it. Okay, so I'm bringing my foot up where it's really just like Vrikshasana. Okay? And I try and do that with both feet. Okay? And I try and get the ball of the foot and the heel to press against each other. I've got the same external rotation as Vrikshasana. Okay? And I'm sitting way up on a chair. Okay? Now, put your hands on the side of the chair and just begin to lower yourself down toward the floor. If it hurts your knees, stop. Okay. Now, eventually, you actually sit all the way down on the floor behind your feet. Okay. And then push yourself all the way back up. Everyone okay there? Let's do that 2 more times, okay? Okay, so you're gonna bring your feet, it's just like Vrikshasana with your feet. Okay. Now, when I'm in just this seated position right now, I can't quite get the big toe side of my foot to go all the way to the floor. So what I'm doing is just like I do in Vrikshasana, I move my outer ankle toward my inner ankle, and that movement firms the hips a little bit more. And keeping my hips firm as I lower down, okay, and then I'm pushing down with my hands a fair bit on the chair, and I go a little bit lower, then I can get a little bit more weight onto the big toe side of my foot. Again, eventually, and some of you probably, I know Carly and I think Bob, you can do this. So some of you can actually get it all the way down to the floor. Okay? But really press the ball of the foot and the heel in toward each other, and you'll feel that firmness in the hips and the length coming into the inner leg. And then push yourself back up. And then we'll do it 1 more time. Okay, but even sitting here, probably you can feel that something big is kind of happening in your groin. Right? Okay, 3rd time's a charm. Yeah. So bring your toes. It's also really nice to stretch the toes. Okay. So bring the ball of the feet and the heel as much close together as you can, like Badaknasana, like Vrikshasana. Move your outer ankle toward your inner ankle. And then slide, keep on moving your outer ankle toward your inner ankle, keep on pressing your heels. Feel how the firmness in the outer hips, and then this position really gives you a lot of length in the inner groin, and then from your perineum, draw all the way up into your top chest. And then come all the way up. And then stand up again into Tadasana. Okay, so that's a really, quote unquote advanced pose. Okay. We just did it. And after that advanced pose now, let's try Vrikshasana again and see if we can see a difference. Okay. Vrikshasana is the 2nd pose in the book. I'm actually, even before having done Vrikshasana, I'm actually feeling the good effect of the Mula Bandhasana just on my Tadasana. I can feel my outer hips have come in a little bit. I can feel more length coming into the front of the groin. And I can feel the lift and spread of my collarbones a little bit more firmly. All right, so just like you did in Mula Bandhasana, turn your leg out, lift your leg up, get your ankle, and place your foot right at the very top of the thigh. I actually feel a firmer connection without even beginning to press my foot and the thigh into each other from the Mula Bandhasana work. Now, just like we did in Mula Bandhasana, move your outer ankle toward your inner ankle, and you'll feel that firmness come into the outer hips. And then reach your arms up into Urdhva Hastasana, bend your elbows, join your palms, turn your triceps from the outside in and reach as far back with your fingers as you can. And then keeping your palms together, finish the pose and come into Namaskar, Urdhva Namaskarasana. Then bring your palms down and stand in Tadasana again. All right, let's do the same thing on the second side. Turn your leg out, lift your leg up, place your foot as high on your thigh as you can. Push your foot and your thigh into each other, move your outer ankle toward your inner ankle. Lengthen up through the side ribs and roll the shoulder bones back. Bring the arms up into Urdhva Hastasana. Join the palms and bend the elbows. Turn your triceps from the outside in. Reach back through your ring fingers and stretch your arms all the way up. Keep pushing in that foot and the thigh into each other and reach up through your ring fingers. And then come down and stand again in Tadasana. And observe the effect of your Vrikshasana and your Tadasana. All right, go ahead and get a couple of bricks if you need them for your standing poses, the lateral angle standing poses. I'm going to use a couple today. Okay, so remember how I said that the seated poses have corresponding standing poses. Nowhere is that more true. And remember Upavishtakonasana when our legs were wide apart. Okay. So do that like you're doing it in standing. Okay. So bring your feet wide apart, spread your toes, and then from the little toe side of the foot, draw all the way up into your outer hips. For now, just place your hands on your hips and move your outer hips in. All right, then stretch your arms all the way out. And this is the beginning. A lot of times you could say it's the beginning of triangle pose, it is, but it has its own name. And it means, Utthita means extended or wide apart, hastas are hands, and padasanas are feet, or padas are feet. Right, and then walk your feet, your padas out a little bit wider so that your feet actually come right underneath your wrists. Then turn your right leg out, bend the knee a little bit, press through the big toe side of the foot, and then straighten your leg. And this is the same external rotation as Vrikshasana, it's just that the leg is straight. Okay? Now press into your outer heel, which is this heel over here. Reach over to the right. And remember how in Parseval, the seated stretch, we turn the torso a little bit? Do that here. And then just bring your hand down to the brick or your shin. Okay? And you have your hand up at the ceiling. So this one's called Utthita extended Trikonasana. Same thing, angle. Okay? And it's a triangle, right? Now, just looking in the screen, I can actually see that my front leg is a little bit hyperextended. Okay? So one fix for that is to just try and stand a little bit wider. Okay, sometimes we have a shorter stance and it causes us to hyperextend the front leg. Okay? Press into the back heel, come all the way up, turn your feet back into Urdhva Hastasana, extended hand and foot pose. Turn your back toes in and your front leg out. Okay? This one's called Parseval, which just means to the side, Hastasana. Okay? And then from Parseval Hastasana, extend out, and then bring your hand down to your brick, and turn your torso toward the front of the room. And this one's obvious to see, Trikonasana, triangle pose. Press into your back heel, reach with your top arm and come all the way back up. Turn your feet back to Urdhva Hastasana, and then you can step or jump your feet back together. All right, next one we're going to do is Urdhva Hastasana. Okay. Urdhva, same word, it means extended. Parsva, we kind of learned, it means to the side. And we already know Kona, which is an angle, right? Okay. So we're going to make side angle pose. And we're going to do that same nifty new arm work. So stand with your feet wide apart. Turn your feet just like triangle pose. Press into your back heel, and from your outer hip, bend your knee so it forms an angle. And ideally, you want it to form a right angle. So just bend a couple of times. Actually, I'm bending more than once. But as you bend, you want to connect the bending of your front leg with the straight leg. So think about bending from this hip to bend the knee. Tuck this outer hip in and imagine that that action is what's getting the knee to bend so that the legs are working in an integrated way. All right, for this particular version of it, just go ahead and place your hand on your elbow on your knee. Take this hand, put it on your pelvic bone, and turn your whole torso toward the screen. All right, then remember our new hand work. Take your thumb, or arm work. Take your thumb, put it right in your collarbone. And use your thumb and lift the collarbone up and get a little bit more turn in the torso. Now keep your elbow in close and stretch your whole arm into Badaknasana. Sit a little bit deeper into the square, push into your back heel and feel that whole extension through the side of the torso, all the way up through the ring fingers. Right, then press into your straight leg heel, stay low as you come up, and then come all the way back. And you just retrace your steps. It's nice, isn't it? I really like that new hand arm work. All right, then go to the other side. Now, when you bend the leg, you can try it and run the experiment. You know, you can just bend your leg. And when I don't connect the bending of the leg with this leg, what I feel is a kind of tightness that comes into the groin right here. But when I press into my back heel and from this outer hip, I bend, then I can go down much more smoothly because then this leg supports the ability of the other leg to bend. And then turn your torso. Go ahead and come down onto your elbow for this particular version. Lengthen through both sides of the ribs. Take your opposite hand and turn that whole torso toward the screen. Now, from your back heel, lift up with your thumb into your collarbone and turn a little bit more. From your back heel, keep your elbow in close and extend the whole side of the body. Now, as you're extending that whole side of the body, sit a little bit deeper into your square and keep turning your torso toward the front of the room. And press into your back heel, release and come all the way up. Turn your feet back to the center, and then stand again in Tadasana. All right, let's do a downward facing dog now. So go ahead and come down onto your hands and your knees. Spread your palms. From your elbow through your thumb and your first finger, press down. From the little finger, draw into your outer shoulder. Keep your collarbones broad. Look straight ahead so the thoracic spine goes in. And then push yourself into Uttanasana, downward facing dog. I'm going to take a look at your dogs for just a minute. Oh, Auto means down. Mukha means face. And Shwana is a dog. So downward facing dog. Carly, your arm action looks good. Okay. If I'm not calling on you, it's just because I can't really see you. Okay, I'm not trying to exclude anyone. Vicky, your dog looks maybe a tiny bit too long. Maybe you just walk in just a tiny, tiny bit. Pratima, you can bring your feet a little further back. Sugi, bring your arms a little closer together. Melinda, make sure you're really turning the tricep from the outside in. Shubha, straighten your arms a little bit more, and your arms might be a little too close together. Okay. All right, Gay and Cliff looks pretty good from what I can see. All right, so everyone walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back, and then come all the way up. Well, looks like you got some nifty new sling thing there. Good. Okay. All right. So downward facing dog. Let's work on the arm again and connect it to some of the work that we actually already did. Am I still spotlighted for you? Or are you on? Can you see everyone now? I'm still spotlighted. Okay. I can see you. Okay. All right. Great. Let's keep it that way. Okay. Remember when we were way back in Badaknasana, I remember bending the elbow here. Okay. Just lift one of your arms up like it was doing Urdhva Hastasana, because it is. And the tricep turns from the outside in. Okay. Now, when you do that, you should feel there's a little space because the bicep also moves away from the ear, and that gives you a little bit of space in the collarbone. Now, one of my favorite yoga jokes is because God gave us elbows, we can keep turning the upper arm this way toward the face, but sorry, yeah, the upper arm. The lower arm can go the other way, okay? And then spread your palm. And that's a downward facing dog, okay? Do it with the other arm. So lift your arm up into Urdhva Hastasana. The tricep turns from the outside in. Because we have elbows, the tricep can keep turning as you turn your palm forward, okay? All right, so what tends to happen sometimes in downward facing dog when we're pushing back is that we actually lose the rotation of the arm, okay? So just pay a little bit more attention to that, and then we're gonna do a new nifty, some more downward facing dog work. Get upside down, all the things. All right, so kneel down on the floor. And just like, and you can even use your hands. You can turn your triceps from the outside in, okay? And then you're gonna push back into downward facing dog. Okay? But make sure your arms are still doing that same rotation. Oh, Leanne, that's good. That looks good. Your leg action looks really good too. Yeah, Pratima, much better. Okay, yeah, good, Carly. All right, yeah, Shuba, that's better. Okay, and Melinda, that's also better. So that really helped. Marcia, that looks good. You're getting, Marcia, maybe a tiny bit further back with your feet. Okay. Good. I hope y'all can feel a difference with that. Okay. All right, then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. All right, then we're gonna do a different way of, it's not, well, you could call it a version of dolphin. Remember when we had our hands back behind our head with this particular hand interlaced? It's not even interlaced, they're just together. You're gonna do downward facing dog in that hand position also. Okay, so it's a little bit like the pose that we sometimes call dolphin pose. Okay, so you're gonna come down onto your hands and knees. Your elbows are about the same, about where they would be for headstand. Okay? Press your palms together, but also what I really like about doing this is from your elbows, push forward, and you'll feel the whole part of the whole lower part of your forearm really get in contact with the floor. And it's a good preparation for a headstand too. Now keep pressing from the elbows through the ring finger, and then you're gonna push back into downward facing dog. Really press your palms against each other and also join your thumbs with your other fingers. And when you really do that, you should feel more opening in your thoracic spine. All right. Then come down, move your hands like you were gonna do a Panchamayurasana, but you're not. Then straighten your arms and come back into downward facing dog. Okay? And see if you can feel that bent arm approach actually gives you more opening in the sides of your ribs and more opening in the sides of your armpits. It did for me. Okay, now walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. Okay, we're getting ready to do, we haven't actually done this in class in a long time, but We're getting ready to do full arm balance. Right? Full arm balance means handstand. The Sanskrit name for that one is Adho Mukha Vrikshasana. Okay. Adho is the down, okay. Mukha is facing, and tree is tree, same as Vrikshasana. Okay, but we're gonna do, obviously we're gonna do it against the wall. If you can't do handstand for whatever reason, like if you're not inverting, if it's too much on your wrists, okay, you have several options. You can repeat downward facing dog. It would be one great thing to do, okay. And I would say I'd actually give you that as an option right now, okay? But it looks like this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it against the wall, okay? I have my palms turned out just a little bit. My arms are really, really straight. I'm about 3 inches away from the wall. I keep my arms as straight as I can. And then I'm gonna kick up into Adho Mukha Vrikshasana. And then guess what? All the actions are the same. My triceps are turning, my buttocks are going up toward my heels. I'm extending from the inner knee through the inner heel. I'm gonna look to the floor. I'm gonna see maybe I can even come off the wall and balance a little bit. Swaying like a tree. Okay, if you can't do that, just do downward facing dog again. And you can lift one leg up and really extend through that one leg. And then you can lift the other leg up. Okay, so those are your two options. Either do full arm balance. If you can't do full arm balance, then go ahead and do one-legged downward facing dog. Okay. There you go. Good. Marcia, you look like you might be a little too close to the wall. Okay. There you go. Pretty good, Melinda. Good. There you go. So you just kick up. You're going to be careful of that whatever is near you. Okay. All right. Good job. He's over here. Good, Monica. All right, and then you get, yeah, Sugi, a little bit more. Don't tip over quite. There you go. Try not to turn your foot out quite so much, leg out quite so much, Shubha. And then come down and rest. That's good. Anyone got any questions about handstand, Adho Mukha Vrikshasana? There you go, Cliff. Yeah. Leanne, question, anyone?
Yeah.
No? Yeah, Leanne?
Can you just do the pinko whatever it is instead of a handstand?
Sure. You want to do that because of your wrists?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
You can do Panchamayurasana. That's another variation. Any other questions?
Can I do it against the bolster against the wall? And
Sure. You're absolutely welcome to do it against the bolster against the wall. Okay, there you go. Good. All right, another question. Yes, Carolyn? Is it, yeah, the triceps turn that way. Absolutely. Yes, exactly. You've got it. And not that way. Yes. That was good. Okay, let's try it one more time. Okay, so you can place your hands down on the floor. Turn your triceps a little bit. You can also just practice kicking up, right? You don't have to get up. There's a lot of value in just kicking up or trying to kick up. And just feel all the energy in the pose. Very exhilarating. I feel even more like a tree here. And then I'm gonna try and balance by drawing my abdomen in and squeezing my legs together. Okay, good job, everyone. All right, then just come down and recover in Uttanasana. Standing forward and Uttanasana actually means intense pose. My feet are in this one about hip width apart. We just usually call it standing forward bend because you're standing and you're bending forward. But really, the Sanskrit name of the pose conveys something important about the pose, namely that it is intense. Particularly if you actually work on the full version of the pose, like is in light and yoga, which we're gonna actually work on now. Okay, so come up again, or come up. All right, so there are lots of ways to do Uttanasana, and the one you just did is usually referred to kind of as a recovery Uttanasana, right? But, hold on a sec. If you have your light on yoga, you can actually look at a picture of light and yoga and Uttanasana. If you don't, it's okay. You don't have to have your light and yoga with you all the time, carrying it around. But if you do have it, you can look at plate 47 and plate 48. And what you will notice if you're looking at your downward facing dog, or sorry, your Uttanasana, is a couple different things from how we just did it. Right? One, his feet are completely together. Right? So let's just try what happens when we bring the feet completely together in Uttanasana and you come forward. It becomes a little bit more intense, right? All right, Uttana, I guess. There you go. Okay, now the other thing, if you were looking at those plates, is his hands are not in front of him, but rather his hands are way, way, way back behind his feet. And if you were to look even at what his hands are doing, he's actually able to get his wrists and palms pretty much flat on the floor. And his hands are, well, his fingers are even back behind his heels, okay? And it becomes more intense kind of all over the body when you do it that way, right? Okay. So keep doing all of your good leg actions. Lift your quadriceps, turn your thighs in, from the little toe side of the foot, draw up into the outer hip, lengthen the sides of the torso, and then see how far you can get your fingertips back. Oh, if your fingers don't touch the floor, you could raise the floor with bricks. Okay? Now, I can't personally get the heel of my hand down toward the floor like he can, but when I try to do it, that extension through the arm, which is really the same extension of the arm that we did in downward and Vrikshasana, Adho Mukha Vrikshasana, actually brings me more deeply into the pose. Okay? So that arm work of really, really reaching back gives me more intensity overall. All right, then go ahead and come all the way up. Let's do the nice resting Uttanasana again. So bring your feet hip width apart and let your fingertips just be near the floor, near in front of your feet. And then extend from the side ribs and just let your head release downward toward the floor. Same pose, Uttanasana, just different variations of it, and they have different effects. Right? Okay. Right. Then go ahead and place your hands on your hips, come all the way up. And we're going to do headstand. Those of you who don't do headstand, okay, today what I would like for you to do is the pose that's called Prosarita, which means wide apart pose, and then you put your head on the floor or on some blankets. Okay, you're going to do that instead of headstand. We're going to do basically Mula Bandhasana upside down. I've got the blanket against the wall. I don't have to have it that way, but it's a variation you might not be used to, so I'm just going to the wall. All right, I'm going to do it first, and then I'll watch you do it. But I have my fingers interlaced against the wall, put my head on the floor, and I'm going to come up into Shavasana. I press the forearms down, lift the shoulders up, move the buttocks toward the heels, and even here, little toe side of the foot down to the hips. Okay. Then you're going to bring both of your legs into, let's say, Vrikshasana. But what's really neat about this variation, I move my buttocks up toward my heels, is it's really like Mula Bandhasana, except that you're upside down. Then you'll straighten your legs back up into Shavasana and come down. Okay? Or you're going to be in Prosarita Padottanasana. Or you could be on Badaknasana, or you could do Mula Bandhasana again. All right, ready? Okay, so you're gonna come either, you can do it in the middle of the room if you know that you're stable, that's okay. But the wall is kind of nice because you actually can move your you can kind of push the little toes into the wall and get this nice outer ankle action. Okay, so do Shavasana first. That looks good. Shubha, you might not need quite so much underneath your head. And if you can walk your feet a little wider apart, that would be good. Okay. All right. Val, that looks very good. Okay. Arm action looks really good. A little bit, it seems like your right hip, Val, might be shifting a little bit out to the right. So lift up a little bit more through your left leg. Pratima, that looks good. Sugi, that looks good too. Good. Melinda, that's really getting nice. It's really coming along. Leanne, move your legs over to the right a little bit. Yeah. Nice, Gay. Good work there. Vicky, that looks right on the money. Leanne also looks good. Marcia, everything looks good. Where's Carly? There you go. Okay, good. Now try and bring your legs. That Monica, that also looks fine. Carolyn, fine. Now try and bring your legs, if you're doing Shavasana, into Mula Bandhasana or Badaknasana. Yeah, good. And feel that opening in the hips. That looks great, Leanne. I can really see that. Can you get your heels together, Melinda? Good, Sugi. Can you bring your feet lower down toward your torso, Pratima? Keep lifting your shoulders up. There you go. Good. Those of you I can't see, just hope you're following along. Main thing is keep your shoulders lifted. Press your heels against each other. Move your outer ankle towards your inner ankle. Good. Okay. Then bring your knees together. Come back up into Shavasana, just regular Shavasana. Feel the effect on the hips and the groin. And those of you in Prosarita Uttanasana, that was a good long stay. Good job, everyone. Come all the way back up. All right, then come down from Shavasana, keeping your shoulders well lifted, and come all the way down. And you're gonna stand again in Tadasana, mountain pose. All right, so basically we're gonna do that same thing in shoulder stand. Okay. If you don't do shoulder stand, you're gonna do legs up the wall pose instead. I'll show that, okay? And you can also work on okay, those of you who are gonna do shoulder stand, okay, go ahead and make your shoulder stand set up now. If you're not doing shoulder stand, okay, I'm gonna show legs up the wall pose, and you're gonna be able to do the Badaknasana work there also. Okay. If you have a bolster, go ahead and use it for legs up the wall pose. And you sit on the bolster, lay down on the bolster, whoops, fall off the bolster, come all the way up, and you're in legs up the wall pose. Okay. Then from legs up the wall pose, you can just bring your legs into Badaknasana, but it's really like Mula Bandhasana. Okay. It's not as much like Mula Bandhasana as when you're upside down in shoulder stand, but it's very similar. Okay, so that's what you're doing if you don't do shoulder stand. If you do shoulder stand, you make your shoulder stand setup. I like to use 4 blankets, and it depends a lot on the blanket setup. You can also do this from a chair, if you know chair shoulder stand. Just the way I have my sticky mat set up. I don't want my head to be on a sticky mat, so what I do is I take a little bit of the blanket, fold it over, so that my head isn't on the sticky mat. Then I'm gonna take a brick launching pad, put it on the other side, and fold the other blanket over. Okay, so that's how you make, those of you who don't know, that's how you make the shoulder stand set up. All right, then all you're gonna do is lay down, your head's on the floor, shoulders are on the blanket. You're gonna come up into plow pose first if you need to. Bring your legs up, and then this one really feels even more like Mula Bandha than the one in Shavasana, but that's what you're gonna be doing. And you're gonna come back up, we'll come down, and then it'll be time or a twist or two in Shavasana. Okay, so either legs up the wall pose if you're not doing shoulder stand, or shoulder stand. All right. I'm gonna look and see what everyone's doing. Bob, if you can get your hands a little bit lower on your back, and yeah, and you're really trying to line the heels up with the perineum. And actually, if you think about Mula Bandhasana, you would actually want your heels even a little bit forward, because your buttocks eventually are going to be behind your feet. All right, so just either legs up the wall pose or shoulder stand. That looks good, Val. Okay. And don't bend your legs right away. Okay, you can get all the way up, get as much as you can on your shoulders. Shubha, can you get your feet a little bit lower down toward your, yes, there you go, good. Outer ankles in. Okay, then go ahead and bring your feet now into Mula Bandhasana. Press your heels so that means you bend both knees out to the side. That's it. Keep pressing your heels against each other. Okay. Try and move your knees back and try and bring your feet a little bit forward. Start off trying just to get the heels lined up with the perineum. Really press the heels so you can really get that outer hip action going well. Good. That looks good, Vicky. Marsha, that's a fine looking shoulder stand on the chair. Yeah, Pratima is actually using her hands to get more length in the inner groin. That looks good, Sugi. There's lots of length there. Is up there. Monica, bring your legs in the Badaknasana now if it feels okay for you to do so. There you go. That looks good. Nice. Okay, then bring your legs back together. Straighten your legs. Come all the way down into plow pose, or just slide off the chair if you're using chair. Those of you in legs up the wall pose, push yourself away from the wall. And then, you know, now we've done, just rest on your back for a few breaths. Then we're gonna go back and visit Mula Bandhasana. But we'll see, well, actually we'll do it from a chair and then we'll give it a go closer to the full pose. Okay, so you've done it twice upside down, most of you. Come back onto your chair. And let's just see, you just did it upside down, and doing it upside down is nice because it really gives you more of the feeling of the root lock automatically because of gravity. Yeah. But now let's just see, is it coming any better? It's a lot lighter for me as I go down into the pose right now. Okay. All right. And then come back up onto the chair. If you felt like that was enough for you, okay, you can repeat the chair work. But if you want to try a little bit closer to the classic pose, what you can do is sit on a bolster, lift up on the bolster a little bit and see what would happen if you could try and get the buttocks to go between the bolster and your feet. It's a lot harder. As I'm sitting down here, I'm really feeling very envious of my bolster experience. I'm longingly thinking back about my bolster experience. All right, let's see if you can give it a go, and some of you can probably do it all the way down to the floor. Okay. And then, nice, that looks good, Melinda. Really good, nice Pratima. Yeah, everyone's looking good. All right, then push yourself back up. Now what's interesting about all of this work is that Mula Bandhasana work really gives, you have a lot of external rotation. even more external rotation than Padmasana. I'm putting a blanket down just because my sticky mats are both dark, okay? And when I'm sitting on them, I kind of disappear. Okay? But just in the last few bits of class, we're gonna see what the Mula Bandhasana gives our ability to do Padmasana. Right? So I'm sitting on the floor. Padmasana means the lotus pose. Right? And I have my legs not as wide as Upavishtakonasana, but kind of wide. Actually, we're going to do a pose that is referred to as Kamalasana rather than lotus pose at first. Okay? But Kamala is a different kind of lotus, apparently. Okay. All right, then take your right hand on the inside of your right knee. Oh, also, you can stop anywhere along the trajectory toward this work. Okay? For instance, if your knees don't want to bend at all, you can stay right here. But you can bring one foot in, bring the leg in a little bit closer, like it's doing Swastikasana, like at the beginning of class. And just bring your toe up to the inside of that thigh, right? Not all the way up to the Padmasana, but just up to the inside. And bend the other leg. And see if you can just cross, not so much at your hips, but at your ankles. Okay? And this is called Kamalasana. It's a loose lotus pose. And for me, all that Mula Bandhasana work, I can really feel, oh, I am better in this pose than I usually am. Okay. Then stretch your leg out. Do the second side, really engage your quadriceps. Okay. So move the knee out wide. And then for Padmasana, your foot would go all the way up at the top of the thigh. We'll do that one next. This one is a version of Padmasana. It's called Kamalasana. And the toe or the toes kind of go on the inside of the thigh. A little bit on the top of the thigh, but not a lot, okay? And then you bend that, you can stop at any stage. And you can stop here, you can stop here, or if you can, come up into Kamalasana. And just notice the quietude that comes. And then undo your legs. You can repeat Kamalasana. Or you can go, what's different about Padmasana and Kamalasana is I'm now bringing my foot all the way up, little toe side of the foot up to the top of my thigh, as much as I can. You can stay here, or you can bend the knee. Then cross at your ankle first, and then see if you can pull your other foot up a little bit higher. Yeah. Padmasana is not something God gave me, yeah. But He did give me the opportunity to work on it. But I'm actually feeling, you know, that I can feel all that good Mula Bandhasana work we did all class has yielded, for me, a decent feeling Padmasana. It could be better, you know, but. All right, and then undo your legs, and then last side. Again, Kamalasana, the toe just goes here. Padmasana, you really get the whole little toe side of the foot up to the top of the thigh. Bend the leg underneath if you can. Sometimes I try and get the foot up a little higher at that point. And then cross at your ankle, and then pull the foot up. Okay, so you don't have to get this foot all the way up in one fell swoop. You can kind of lift it up a little bit, then pull it. And observe the external rotation, the firm hips, the rootedness of the sitting bones into the floor, and how much in this pose your awareness draws in forth and back. And just close your eyes, be quiet for a few minutes. Not a whole few minutes, just to feel the quietude that comes from the lotus. Right, then undo your legs, straighten your legs out, and then come into Shavasana, corpse pose. So, yeah, and if some of you look like it, like Leanne, it looks like you're very happy there, and Padmasana, you can do that too. Let your eyes release into the back of your head. And if you do want to just stay seated, that's an option also. Let your eyes release into the back of the head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears draw inward. Completely relax the features of your face. Become quiet within. Observe the effect of this rather focused work on the hips, on your ability to sit, on your ability to be in Shavasana. Well, from that still place within, inhale. Consciously use those inhalations to bring an awareness of your true self with you as you go about your work in the world. Place your hands on your rib cage, bend your knees, roll over to your right side, and use your hands to push yourself back up. And if you want it, if you're in the Padmasana already, you can switch the cross of your legs for the opposite Padmasana. If you want to end in Padmasana, you can bring your legs back into Padmasana or just be in whatever way is comfortable for you to sit. But close your eyes, fold your palms together at your heart, and observe the effect that the whole practice has on you. You know, I mentioned that the first 15 minutes of class, I could already feel an enormous effect, enormous shift in my feeling. And over the next hour, there's even more of a sense of inner spaciousness, of release, and a feeling of quietude that comes. In gratitude to whatever benefit you receive from your practice of yoga. In gratitude to the people you have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with, even in the strained communal setting of Zoom. In gratitude to that, namaste.